When the Chiddushei Harim died in 1866, his grandson Yehuda Aryeh Leib, the one who was going to become the Sfas Emes, was only 19 years old, and due to his youth, there was a reluctance to accept him to the position of being the new Rebbe. And the Hasidim flocked to the Alexander Rebbe. But 4 years later, the Alexander Rebbe passed away. And now there was a tremendous amount of pressure on the 23-year-old Sfas Emes to take over the position, the mantle of being the Rebbe, to lead one of the greatest Hasidus in all of Europe. And so in 1870, the Sfas Emes assumed the title of being the Rebbe. And the Hasidim would sometimes ask him how he managed to provide leadership and wisdom and insight to those much older than himself. And he responded with a story. So there was once a mountain climber who dreamed of climbing the highest peaks in the world. And he would train and he would practice and he spent months climbing to ever higher and higher heights until the day arrived when finally he would begin his ascent to the highest peak in the world. And weeks of climbing ensued, and he inched slowly and carefully towards the summit. And as he arrived at the peak, taking in the magnificent scenery, the beautiful view, he notices that he's not alone. A few feet away was a child, and he's bewildered and he doesn't understand, how could it be that a child was able to do this? I worked so hard, it's taken me weeks and weeks, a child could never do it. So the child says to the climber, I didn't climb this mountain. My parents did many years ago, and I was born here. So to explain the Sfas Emes, I was born here. When the Torah introduces Yaakov and Esav, it's instructive to note that it tells us their locations, the places they inhabit. Esav is the Ish Sada, Yaakov is the Yoshev Ohalim. Whose field was Esav in? He's in Yitzchak's field, and Rashi alludes to this, and he says that he was an Adam Batal, but he would go out and he'd be hunting. How does that go hand in hand? An Adam Batal sounds like he doesn't do anything, but yet he would go out and he would be active and he would be hunting. What exactly is Rashi getting at? And perhaps the idea of Adam Batal is that Esav was content with who he was and where he came from and had no interest in growing. He was already, in his view, at the top of the mountain. And the Chazal explaining that Esav would try to trap his father with his words and ask him, how do you take Meiser? From Teven and Melech, from straw and salt. What's unique about these two items? Both are not obligated in Meiser, but it's for two opposite reasons. Teven is animal food, it's inferior. And salt, it isn't food at all. But why did Chazal highlight these two? Rav Zevin explains that these two are polar opposites. Teven, as we mentioned, is inferior, a lower level than other foods. But melach, salt, is in fact superior. It improves other foods. It preserves foods. You could take your steak and turn it into beef jerky, and it can last significantly longer. And these, in fact, are critical attributes in life. We have psolos in our lives. We have things that we need to get rid of. We have that which we have to discard. And we have to try and refine ourselves and improve ourselves. We need to take the teven and we need to add melach. We need to get rid of it and add salt. What's the salt in our lives? It's the Torah and the mitzvahs. If we infuse everything that we are doing with a little bit of salt, that taste goes so far. What's the concept of meiser? You take some off from what was, in order to be able to use the food that you want to be able to eat. Esav wanted to hold on to the psolos. He wanted to hold on to the garbage. Salt doesn't need meiser because it doesn't need fixing in order to use it. The Torah that it represents is already perfect. Esav's outlook was to try to find those shortcuts. But Yaakov is the Ish Tam Yoshev Ohalim. Yaakov is sitting and he's learning, and he understands that there's always more that we can do. And there's going to be challenges and there are going to be bumps along the way. But if we have the outlook of trying every so often to take away a little bit of the psolos, a little bit of that which is holding us back, and refine it, and add salt, and add a little bit more Torah, then that sweetens everything, that changes the flavor, that enhances it. And that's the difference between Yaakov and Esav. Esav thinks he's already on the top of the mountain, but our job is to climb that mountain and to see what peaks we are able to reach.